So welcome back. We got a full day for you. We get through all of our coaching staffs. The way that it'll work, everybody will present in here, go through their presentation, and then they'll move up to the monogram room, which is just up the stairs to the right, and they'll do a chalk talk Q&A session up there. So again, we have our equipment table, operations table. You can get your t-shirt, turn in your flash drive order form, blue gold tickets, all of those things you can do right there. So for our first presentation, he's our recruiting coordinator and special teams coordinator, does a fantastic job for us. And in all of his recruiting presentations, we talk about our high academic standard. But he's going to start off with trying to explain this simple math problem that I still don't know how this adds up. So here's Brian Polian. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, guys. How we doing? I always get the 9 a.m. shift where everybody's just wiping the backer from their eyes and, getting their bagels and their coffee. I was talking to my wife the other night, and we were kind of reminiscing a little bit, and I told her that I was getting ready for the clinic, and you got to always open with a joke or an anecdote or something. She said, what are you going to give them? And we're just kind of going through some funny stories. So in 2005, Charlie Weiss hired me here when I was 29 years old. And I had coached nothing but MAC and mid-major football up until that point. So we're getting ready for the USC game, and Charlie asked Coach Holtz to come back and speak to the team the Friday before the USC game, the Bush Push game. And so Coach Holtz comes in, and he's talking to the team, and I'd only met Coach Holtz once. I'd never seen him address a whole group. And I'm sitting there, and he starts with, hey, let me tell you something, fellas. Jesus may not care about this game tomorrow, but I guarantee you his mother does. And so he just starts going on and on in only the way that Coach Holtz can. And so he's telling our team, the 2005 team, he's telling them how well coached they are and how lucky they are to have this coaching staff. And we're all sitting in the back row. And you got Charlie Weiss, one of the great play callers in all of football. And he's going through, Rick Minter was my defensive coordinator at South Carolina. Michael Haywood played here. He's a former letter winner. Jappy Oliver was my D-line coach at South Carolina. He's a great coach. Goes right down the line. He gets to me and he goes, and Brian Polian, his dad's a hell of a guy. So I said, well, welcome to Notre Dame. So, all right, so 1 + 1 = 3. How do we have this math so screwed up? Every year I try to pick a theme with the special team, something that I think we need to, is a good reminder for us. Every year, each team is different. And sometimes the message needs to be a little bit different, the rallying cry. The first year I was here, we chose the word demeanor, just because we wanted our demeanor, overall demeanor, to change in the kicking game, just in terms of the way that we carried ourselves, the way that we practiced, the importance that the front level players placed in participating in special teams. We used the word demeanor. Last year, all the way up into the summer, I was struggling with, I couldn't find something that I could settle on that was going to be kind of our rallying cry. I am a crazy, sicko Bruce Springsteen fan. Have been since I was a little kid. And my wife was kind enough, we were able to, we got some tickets to the Broadway show, where Springsteen is Bruce's, essentially it's a one-man show, and it's in a 900-seat theater and in New York City, and it was as a religious experience as you can have outside of church. It was pretty incredible. But what Bruce talked about, and he talks about it in his autobiography, Born to Run, is that in everyday life, we go to work, we get paid, we pay the bills. In the life of a college kid, you get up, you go to class, you do your homework, you get your grades. That everyday mundane life that makes sense to everybody, right? That's 1 + 1 = 2. Bruce was talking about it in terms of music. My mind equated to what we do in sports, in athletics. But he said when 8 guys get together and they create art, they create music, that you're able to turn the world on its ear, and that 1 + 1 now becomes 3. And that's what we do. We're trying to, the message here with 1 + 1 = 3 is our sum is greater, or excuse me, our whole is greater than the sum of our parts. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that our best special teams player a year ago was a walk-on out of the student body who was a tweener body. He couldn't be he was too slow to be a safety and not big enough to be a linebacker, but he was plenty good enough to cover kicks and be a can of kick-ass in the special teams. No, it doesn't make sense. But when we buy in, we create magic. I do it an utter disservice. I don't articulate it the way that he can, which is why I'm a slappy football coach and he's Bruce Springsteen. So, but that's where that came from. And in fact, now that the whole thing has been, the whole show from Broadway is now available on Netflix. They went in there and taped it one night. Instead of trying to explain this to our football team during training camp, I'm simply going to cut out the part where Springsteen describes it because he does a much better job. But that's where 1 + 1 = 3 was born. That in what we do, in love, in art, in athletics, we make magic happen. It doesn't make sense, but that's what we do. All right, we're not going to the steel mill in Buffalo and cashing a check after a shift. We get to do this, and how lucky are we? So just thought I'd share that with you. Now, so today I wanted to focus on punt return. Punt return has changed significantly in the last 10 to 15 years with the advent of the shield punt. Everybody goes to shield punt now, so what I was brought up on and what I used to teach is almost obsolete now in terms of the technique that we use on punt return, and frankly, conceptually, everything that we used to do is pretty obsolete now. So I kind of felt like, okay, I would imagine a lot of teams in high school and lower level college, higher level college. I mean, one of the reasons I got out of pro style punt, which I believe in my soul is the best thing, was that I couldn't get up in front of our team and show them any film because nobody runs it anymore. So it's really hard to get up the week before you play USC and say, this is how John Baxter attacked pro-style punt in 1999, all right? So one of the reasons I shifted to the shield was not because I believe in it more, but I couldn't prepare our team anymore. So now with the advent of shield punt or versions of it all over football, how does that change the way that you attack it and the way that you go about working with it? So what I put together here is a couple examples of some drills that we do, a whole progression, and then conceptually, how do we attack shield punt teams in a given week? So I just bear with me here. I want to pull out my notes to make sure I'm following along. So in your binder there that you get, I just listed the drills. Feel free to take some notes and as what you see. All right, so we're going to start with the punt return drills. Okay, so to me, there are two portions of punt return. There's the bottom of the stem, where I'm trying to disrupt releases at the line of scrimmage, and then there's how do I react at the top of the stem, where we're now 40 yards downfield, and the guy I'm trying to block is reacting to the ball and or the punt returner. So we start with a progression with the bottom of the stem drills. So what you're going to see here in the clip, we start with a mirror drill, which is everything, every fourth grade basketball team in America does the mirror drill. This is simply keep your eyes down, keep your feet moving. I think we're going to focus here on Nick Coleman, who is on the right side of the screen. They're not going to be perfect. We're going to put them in inside leverage. We want to keep our eyes down. You can see a lot of head and shoulder movement at the line of scrimmage, trying to free themselves up. I don't want to fall for what we call an eye stunt. Boom. I want to keep my eyes down on the waistline. Guy tries to shimmy and shake, his belly button is going to stay where he's going. That's a hard body part to shimmy and shake. So we're going to keep our eyes on the waistline. We don't want our feet to come together, ideally. We don't want to click our heels. We want to try and keep a base as best as possible. We certainly never want to cross over. This is the worst body position you could possibly be in all of football, is to get caught with your feet crossed over, because now you got no power, you can't move. So as you watch Nick Coleman, and the guys that are really good at this are not spazzes. They're not freaking out. You don't see them tipping over. You see them with, 3 good angles, ankles, knees, hips. They're down in a good athletic position. Their eyes are down, and they're very calm as they mirror the movement, all right? Now, depending on what we're running, it could be inside or outside leverage we want, but for the purpose of the drill, we're starting with inside leverage. So what you see with Nick is you see very quiet feet, and you don't see them coming together. And then compare that to, I don't know who's next to him, but whoever's next to him, loses his leverage immediately and then looks like he's having a seizure. There's body parts moving everywhere. He's hopping around. We want to try to avoid 2 feet up in the air at one time. That's not good. So when we start with the mirror drill, guys, veterans like Nick, you can see his eyes are down, his feet are moving, and we're getting lots of reps in a 5-yard shoot. Okay, so now you're going to look at Sean Crawford, who's great at this because he's quick twitch. Now Sean's feet are moving a little bit faster, but you can see his eyes are down. He's keeping his leverage. They're not coming together. Okay, you got Alohi Gilman now in the middle of the field. And again, eyes down. Feet aren't coming together. We're keeping a base. We're keeping our leverage. And when you look to the left, okay, that guy in that shoot is struggling to move. So now immediately we can identify who's got the quick twitch, who's got the eye discipline, who's got the feet to mirror a release at the line of scrimmage. I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but we're in the evaluation business. Whoever's wearing, I believe, number 37 there, coming out of this drill, I can say, all right, that guy's probably not going to vice somebody on punt return. All right, he doesn't have the short area quicks to match the movement at the line of scrimmage. Okay, so now an example of the mirror drill in game film. And I believe this is John Jones, a backup linebacker. I might be wrong. But you can see, right? We're going to keep our leverage. We're going to keep our eyes down. Number 11 gives us a little, you see the little head and shoulder fake right there, the little hesitation. But because our eyes are down, our feet are moving, we keep our leverage. So that's the mirror drill, which is, again, CYO 6th grade basketball. You're teaching the mirror drill in the gym. It's the first thing we do when we do the punt return drill progression. We start with the mirror drill. Okay. Now, soft shoe. This is a great debate, okay? I learned the soft shoe technique from Bill Lewis, who was our DB coach here under Charlie Weiss, but Bill Lewis had also coached nickels and corners in the National Football League. He's a legendary football coach. He was here on Coach Weiss's staff at the very end of his career. Actually still lives here in South Bend, retired here. Bill's a wonderful DB coach. I asked Bill about how did they teach the NFL corners to play press coverage, because he's with the Dolphins with Jimmy Johnson. They had Patrick Surtain, and they had some of these really long corners, so they pressed him a bunch. And Bill talked about, I want to get up in his airspace, right? I want to make the guy uncomfortable. But the worst thing that a press corner can do from this position is go spread eagle, which is what most of them want to do, right? On the snap of the football, they see a little bit of movement, they go spread eagle. The other thing that you can get in a lot of trouble with is to get too aggressive, get head heavy, get out of balance, and now you're going to get swum and stacked, and you're out of there. So what soft shoe means is that I want to get up there and get pressed. But say, for example, I want to keep right leverage right now. I want to keep inside leverage. I'm up and press, but on the snap of the football, I'm going to step 6 inches backwards to the leverage that I want to keep. So if I want inside leverage, I'm up here and press on the snap of the ball. I'm doing that. I'm keeping my leverage, but I'm creating a little bit of airspace so that now I can react to the movement of the man I'm either trying to block, or in the case of a corner, the guy I'm in press coverage against. Now, why would they do this with guys like Surtain? Because their arms were so friggin' long that 6-inch step did not take them out of range to get an offhand jam, all right, or to put their hands on people. What it created, though, is that when you get up in a guy's grill, you get up in his airspace, his reaction now is, I'm going to have to shimmy and shake and foot fire and head fake to create a release. I've got to create space. Good, let him dance. While he's dancing, I'm going to just open up a little bit of space here so now I can react. So that's what soft shoe is. So when we teach a press technique in punt return, and now keep in mind, this used to be just a visor technique, right? They'd have the gunners out there. I would just teach this to the visors, but everybody else up front was in a 3-point stance, and we're coming off the ball, and we're getting our hands on people. Well, now with shield punt, everybody's releasing immediately. So now if we're in return mode, you got your whole front. Everybody on the punt return unit is up here in vice technique now, all right? So now the soft shoe drill, I believe we're going to show number 28, yep, for Tita. So he's trying to keep inside leverage right now. Look at his right foot move first. And it's not a big step, man. It's 1-2. It's get him in the ground. But he's going to step to his leverage, create a little bit of airspace. So now as that guy releases, I put hands on. It just gives me a little bit of space to work and put hands on. Same thing. Now, look at Sean Crawford to the left, number 20. He does not step back. All he does is step out. We don't want to be spread eagle. We want to lose about 6 to 8 inches. So the way Fertitta does it. Okay, now we're looking at Jay Love. Now look, you know, rocket science right here. Look at the draft pick do it. Yeah, I mean, no, yeah, he's a draft pick for a reason, because he's really good with his feet. Okay, first step, right foot, back about, to him, this is about 3 to 5 inches. But now it just creates airspace. My eyes are down, I can react to the movement, I put hands on. Okay? 24, first step, right foot. I wish the second one would get down quicker. Boom, boom. It's got to happen quick. Boom, boom. Because what we don't, if this step gets too elongated, too deep, and he picks the inside one up and now my man's moving, it's hard to redirect. Let's get him on the ground as quickly as possible. Okay, so now we're going to watch Tariq Bracy, a true freshman corner from Milpitas, California, who I love guys like this. This is some 3-star recruit that Blue and Gold Illustrated and all those places. They act like he's a throw-in. You know, look at all these highly rated corners we got. Yeah, we did get some really good young corners. You know who played as a freshman? The 3-star that played running back in high school, because he's got competitive nature, he's got attention to detail, he's got great feet and athleticism, and we got to be able to take guys and make them switch positions. So you can see it's a great picture here. It's hard for me, but his left foot, does everybody see his left foot move first? He's protecting his inside leverage here. So he's going to soft shoe out of there, gives him time to react, and now he beats the ever-living dog out of the dude and drives him out to the boundary. Okay? That's why we do it. We're going to get up and pressed. We're going to soft shoe to our leverage, create a little bit of airspace so now that we can react to the movement of the defender going down the field. Okay, so now you're going to see one where it's no longer a DB on the outside of the formation. Now it's a linebacker lined up over a guard in shield punt that's got to execute the exact same technique. So John Jones here is trying to protect his inside. John is trying to force a release to his left and not allow a release inside to his right. See his first step, right foot. Protect the leverage, soft shoe it, hands, don't let him go in there, force the outside release. It's a good picture. Good picture. Okay? Just so you don't think I'm nuts. One of the things I'm trying to do really hard around this team, and it happens everywhere in America, is that our guys are so highly recruited. And in recruiting, all they're told is how wonderful they are and how easy life is going to be. And then you got to rewire them. Well, one of the things that I'm trying to do here, and we try to do it everywhere, but here especially, is to help them understand that special teams makes them more valuable in the eyes of the NFL. Drew Tranquil, I cannot tell you how many clubs have called to ask, this guy's a 4-unit special teams player, isn't he? Yes, he is. Drew Tranquil, his ability on special teams is going to make his career longer. He's going to make more money because he's a great special teams player and will probably be a special teams captain somewhere in the NFL. So one of the things that I've been trying to do this year is, we all know you build that drill tape, right? The drill tape that takes years and months to compile, and you bring it with you from one school to the next. What I've done this year is gone in and tried to find examples of our drill work in NFL tape. So that's one of the things I did today was we've put now the technique that we teach in camp, in the drill work, examples in games, and then examples in the NFL. So watch the vicer up top who's trying to protect his inside leverage. First step is with his right foot, and he loses about 3 to 4 inches, creates just a little bit of airspace, gets his left foot down on the ground quickly, protects his leverage. You're going to see a lot of the same teams over and over again because those are special teams coaches that are guys that I've studied with or we've come up with and kind of all believe in the same theories. But it's a great picture of soft shoe. Okay, now armbar. Armbar is, I want to disrupt the release at the line of scrimmage as long as I can. I want to put hands on them and try to hold them up at the line of scrimmage. But remember the old days when teams would vertical set and you'd come off in a three-point stance and put your hands on them and mug them at the line of scrimmage. It's hard to do that these days because everybody's up in a two-point, they step and they're out. So, the soft shoe is the technique to get my feet in the right place. Now, armbar, I want to get 2 hands on the guy. And what we have learned is that the officials will the old days, remember, keep your hands inside. We don't want our hands inside. We want our hands outside because they'll let you hold them at the line of scrimmage. Now, the minute you torque them, you're going to get a flag. But initially at the line of scrimmage, you can grab a little bit of jersey and get away with it. And that half count might be the difference between your guy having a legit chance to return the ball or having a fair catch it because he's got people in his face the whole time. So we're going to teach, we want 2 hands on. But there's going to come a point where if I'm forcing an outside release, okay, I've got to drop the outside arm at some point. Because if I don't, I'm struggling to keep 2 hands on. The man who's covering the punt, his hips are facing down the field. I'm struggling to keep that outside arm on, but now my hips are facing sideways. And now I'm not going to be able to run with him. So what armbar is, I'm going to put 2 hands on, but now as he starts to release down the field, I'm going to drop the outside arm. And I'm going to flip the hip open, and I'm going to be strong with the inside arm and continue to disrupt. So that's what we're teaching with armbar. Okay, again, Jay Love. Great example, and again, look at his feet first. We get the soft shoe. So we get the soft shoe. This is all a teaching progression. 2 hands on. I'm pushing him, trying to widen his path. There comes a point where, I've got to drop the outside arm, but I can be strong on the inside arm and now with the inside arm, and now I'm going to run them down the field. Okay, Nick Coleman. Pretty good soft shoe, right foot first. Okay, 2 hands, drop it, heavy on the inside arm. 2 hands, and I don't mind right here. Let's get a little clutch and a little grab. Let's try and hold him up for half a second, but then we're going to have to drop. We'll have to drop that outside arm, flip the hip, and start to run him. Okay. No soft shoe. Moved his inside foot first. Bad footwork. Okay. 2 hands on, drop it, run him. Okay. Sean Crawford, right in the middle, number 20. Keeps his leverage. Good feet, eyes are down, 1 hand, run them out, okay? Why do I not have an example of us first? Okay, so we're going to be looking at the 3rd man in from the right. So obviously this is one of the big differences between having to prepare for a shield punt as opposed to NFL Cup style protection where you could get everybody down in a 3-point and come after him. But we're going to watch, again, the 3rd man in from the right. Okay. Okay. 2 hands on. Now, at that point, 51's hips are pointed down the field. The kid from Minnesota, his hips are pointed towards the sideline. He's got to bail on that outside arm. He's got to open the hip, try and be firm with the inside arm, but he now needs to turn and run and force him to the sideline. And that's the technique that we're coaching. Okay, here's an example of us. And we're going to look at Tony Jones, who's lined up over the long snapper. Tony wants to have right leverage from his perspective. He wants to force number 50 back to the big field. He does a good job of keeping his leverage. He's got 2 hands on, flips his hip. Now he's got the armbar. And if he's in a good athletic matchup, which Tony is a tailback against a long snapper, and Tony can run with him, he can keep the arm on him the whole way down. If he's not in a good athletic matchup, you can drop that arm and now haul butt and stay on his back hip. Okay. All right. So those drills were all bottom of the stem drills where I'm trying to disrupt releases. I'm trying to force people out of their lanes. I'm trying to pull them up. The myth is that there's no reaction at the top of the stem, which there is, and there's specific techniques. So now I've pulled up the release. I'm forcing the guy to run down the field. Now, at the top of the stem, these guys have to react to the returner and react to the ball. And more often than not, defenders are going to come down and they're going to long stride, short stride. They're going to gather their feet, sink their hips, and we need to know the techniques to react at the top of the stem. So we start with the bottom of the stem, now we go to the top of the stem. And I want to just point out, there's a lot of running involved in special teams. So we, as special teams coaches, have to be very cognizant of their legs. We've got to find ways to drill this stuff without running them up and down the field because that serves no purpose. All you're doing is put people at risk of being injured. So you'll see a lot of this drill work is compartmentalized to take the running out of it. All right, but we have to articulate to them, okay, guys, we're at the top of the stem now. We've already run 30 yards down the field. Now we're working in a 10-yard area here at the top of the stem. Okay, first one, grab and wrap. So the guy on the inside of the cone in this picture in the middle chute there, number 28 for Tita, he is on punt return. The guy in the dot, in this case in the middle lane there, number 38, he is on the punt team. So what we're saying is that we have inside leverage. Number 38 is going to run about 12 to 15 yards, and then he's going to gather up like he's getting ready to make a tackle on punt. And then how do we react to it? So we're going to stay on the hip. As that guy starts to gather, and keep in mind, our eyes are not on the football. On punt return. Our eyes are on our man, our blocking responsibility. The returner will make us right. The coverage guy will tell us where the ball is because he's going to run to the ball. All right, he's going to run to his lane. So I'm gonna, as he gathers, I'm gonna catch up, I'm staying on the back hip, I'm gonna grab with my inside arm and grab jersey, and then I'm gonna wrap myself, use that momentum, wrap myself into blocking position. Grab and wrap. Okay. Good picture here by Tony Jones. Okay. Tony's running, he's staying on the hip, the guy starts to gear it down. That tells me when he starts to gear it down, it's time to grab, wrap, throw myself into position. Okay, so in this picture, we're gonna watch 26 he's at the second level here. But watch how he reacts to his blocking assignment in space. Okay. His guy starts, you see how the kid from NC State, he's wearing jersey number 31. He's running. Watch him start to gather, grab, and wrap. It's a great picture. It's a great picture. Okay? This time against Stanford, we're going to be looking at jersey number 17, Isaiah Robertson. Okay? There's your arm bar. Drop it. All right? He falls into a trail technique. He does not want to get stacked. Watch him work his way back to inside leverage. We don't want to be stacked. So watch Isaiah. Right now he's stacked, which is no good. He probably should have dropped that outside arm sooner. He ends up in a trail position, but look at him get back to inside leverage. In fact, he fights for it. And as number 21 from Stanford begins to gear it down, Isaiah's not watching the returner. The returner's going to make him right. Watch Isaiah as 21 starts to gear it down. It's not pretty, but it's effective. The grab, wrap, and he stays on the block. Okay? Great example here from the New York Jets. So there's two guys, number 40, and I think the other one might be a 17 or an 89. Number 40 and number 89. Watch 89 here. Armbar. Do you see him drop the outside arm? He's got two hands. He's pulling up the release. Now he's going to drop the outside arm and he's going to run. Watch 89 go down the field. So the kid from Detroit, he's running. He's got inside leverage. That guy starts to gear it down. Grab and wrap. It's a great, great picture. All right, let's watch 40 now, who's lined up at linebacker depth, who's not going to engage on the line of scrimmage. He's going to end up blocking the personal protector from depth. Okay? Gets his leverage. 32 from Detroit begins to gear it down. Grab and wrap. It's a good picture. Okay. Push the tricep. This is actually a great technique, but it takes a little bit of discipline because if you miss by 12 inches, you're going to get called for a block in the back. And there are some guys that when you drill it, you say, okay, I trust this guy. He'll be able to do it. Other guys, you say, no, this is going to end up in a disaster. But what we're saying is, I'm in trail technique. My guy starts to gear it down. Reach out, grab his tricep, and run him by the ball. But if you miss by 12 inches towards the back, you're not going to get called for a block in the back. So we're aiming for the tricep or up underneath the shoulder pad. All right? So probably the best example here is 26. Actually, he's on it too early. 28, 15 gears down. As he starts to gear down, if I'm trailing, push the tricep, run him by. Okay? Dexter. See Dexter in the middle of the lane? That's a block in the back. All right? God love Dexter. Terrific kid. Was never going to be a punt return because, this is the stuff that you were afraid of. Same thing. Stud still on the right. We can't be on the back of the jersey. We got to be on the tricep. When you watch Sean Crawford in the first lane to the left, look at the difference. okay? Dex has got his hand on the jersey, on the 8. That's going to be called a block in the back. Watch number 20, Sean Crawford to the left. Guy gears down right on the tricep, running by. So now, there's a great example of it. Watch Asmar Bilal. He's the second guy in from the right there. He actually gets on it early and stays on it. He's on the tricep, runs him right by. That's completely legal. All right, really well executed there by him. Okay. I found 2 examples NFL-wise. We're looking at the second guy in from the right. Number 59, right there on the tricep. You can see he ends up with a little bit of jersey, but he runs the guy right by the play. Okay, there's another one here for the Ravens. Look at the visor up top. The visor up top. Right? Now, he gets on it, and he ends up pushing the tricep and ends up in a grab and wrap position. So we're looking at the top right of the screen, right there. He's on it. And then ends up falling back into a wrap position, which is really good. Okay, scrape paint. Another way to say this is box out, because it's the same concept. All right, I end up in a position where I'm really trailing. I don't want to block the guy in the back, so I'm gonna run to the junction point, and I'm gonna put him on my tail. There's no contact. I'm literally just trying to put my body between he and the returner. The key is don't run to where the man is, because then you run up his back and you will get called. You got to run to a junction point to where you think he's going to end up and just cut him off and scrape paint. And we teach dip and rip. Just dip and rip. Okay? So this was a return that we're trying to get back to the field. And who are we looking at? I think we're looking at Sean Crawford against number 6. We're trying to get this ball back to the field. Sean lost his leverage, but they outkicked the coverage. Now we're trying to get back. So now Sean, scrape paint. Not a block in the back, just literally 2 ships passing in the night. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it all the way back because a guy we were double teaming outworked us. Great example here by Jacksonville of scrape paint at the top of the stem. They're trying to get the return back to the big field right here, scrape paint. That's not going to get called for a block in the back, all right? Okay, the bag drill is just a competitive drill. This is actually what I'm hoping to do in tomorrow's practice is to just line us up, and we're gonna line up one-on-one, create matchups, and say, hey, guy in the punt team, you got to get down to the bag. Guy in the punt return team, you can't let him do it. All right, decent feet. And this is back from when I was at A&M, and just try and create a little bit of a competitive, great soft shoe right here, which is not surprising because this kid's in the NFL right now. Great soft shoe, armbar, and unfortunately he gets a little bit high on it, and he's not real strong, and he gets run by. All right, but that's a competitive situation where you can put this stuff to work. Okay. Conceptually, we got a couple minutes left. How do you attack shield punt teams? And I put some notes in there. Okay. Questions that you got to ask as you're scouting people. Okay. First of all, are they a 3-man shield? Okay. Is the punter a threat to run or throw on a fake? We did not have that ability here for the last 2 years. Tyler Newsome, who I love dearly, has the worst ball skills of any Division I athlete in the history of football. All right, so I was just hoping that we'd catch the snap, let alone be able to throw. Our new punter, Jay Bramblett, and I believe his dad is at the clinic. Coach Mike, there he is, my man. Coach Mike, Jay's dad. Jay was a high school quarterback. He's a terrific punter. And I'm so pleased with the job that he's done since he's come early at the semester. He's wonderful. but he's a high school quarterback that threw for like 2,500 yards. So now we have the ability to throw outs to gunners and do some things. So it opens things up. And it's something, frankly, I'd like to do early in the year to get on film so that people have to prepare for it. All right. Is the personnel in the shield a threat for a fake is something you got to think about. One of the first things that we look at when we scout the opponent is, do they use the long snapper in protection, or is he a free releaser? And if he is a free releaser, is he an athlete that we feel like we have to block? Because if he's a big old stiff that can't run, we'll just tell Fink, hey, listen, that one's on you. I'm not wasting a blocker on that. I'm going to create a double team somewhere else. You got to make, the stiff miss in space, which Chris can do very well. One of the first things we'll decide is whether or not we feel like we have to block the long snapper. And if he is releasing, some people release him right to the ball. Some people release him to the backside, and he becomes the contained player. Got to know that as well, all right? Do they rugby punt out of their shield formation? If they do, your force has to come from outside in. If a team does a rugby punt, your force player can come from the interior of the formation. But if they rugby, you've got to have somebody setting an edge on the defense so the guy just can't tuck the ball and keep rolling with it. And then, to be honest with you, the biggest thing for me is, can I predict where you're going to punt the ball? Because shield punt, in theory, not always in practice, because I know certainly at the high school level or lower college, the punters aren't as frankly accurate as they are at our level. But shield punting involves directional kicking. You're cutting somebody loose on the backside. All right, you're saying the width of the splits and the operation time is going to make it such that the outside rusher can't get there, number one. So it involves directional kicking. If I know where the ball is going to be kicked, they always kick it into the boundary. They always kick it to our right. If I know where the ball is going now, it opens all sorts of possibilities in terms of how we want to attack people. So those are the things that we study. Now, as we get to the concepts, matchup is literally man on man. We're trying to force outside releases across the front, and we're telling the return guy, get back to the middle of the formation. All right, this is good against teams that will keep the ball in the middle of the field. Not ideal if they're really good at getting it out towards the boundary. But here's an example of Syracuse, and this is a great example of Chris Fink getting the ball back into the middle of the formation. So he catches it outside the hash, gets it back up the chute, and it ends up being a 16, 18-yard return. Which, by the way, our goal is 10 yards on every returnable kick. We want to take one first down away from the offense. This year we averaged 9.8, I think. Pretty damn close to our goal. The thing is, and what I tell our players is, in this day and age of shield punt, you only get two, maybe three legit return opportunities in a game. You got to take advantage of them when you get them, okay? So watch everybody across the front. We're forcing outside releases. You can see we've tried to pry open. I'm putting a laser onto a Jumbotron like an idiot. We're trying to pry open the middle of the field here, and you can see that we did it. Look at the middle of the field, right up the logo. We've pried open the middle of the field now. Now Chris has got to field the ball and get it. Look, we're all inside leverage. Now Chris has got to get it back, which he does. Okay? Another matchup situation. Trying to force outside releases. Trying to pry open the middle of the field. Right up the gut. Remember we talked about try to pull releases at the line of scrimmage? Watch 26. He doesn't want to give up the inside leverage, but if we can just pull him up and put two guys in the same lane, it's going to create a crease somewhere. And then if you get a returnable kick, and frankly, watch 26 again. Just his guy ends up on the ground. He keeps working. He keeps working. Like, punt return's an effort play. It's the ability to strain for 8, 9 seconds, okay? All right, alley. An alley concept is we're returning the ball to the kick side. If I know that they're going to kick the ball to our right or they're going to kick the ball into the boundary all the time and that the punter's fairly accurate, then what I'm saying is that we're not going to try to bring the ball back to the middle of the field. We're going to double team somebody in the coverage right at the point of attack, and we're trying to get the ball from where it's caught vertical immediately. So if I know that their punter's, the ball's going to land around the numbers, then I'm going to set the double team right there, and we're not trying to get it back to the middle of the field. We're trying to get vertical from the point we catch the ball. So you're going to see here against Wake Forest, and this one absolutely kills me, we're going to double team the guard because I know the ball is being kicked into the boundary. So I'm saying, okay, the right end and right tackle, we're going to force an outside release. We're going to double team the right guard and wear him out. And everybody to the left of the right guard, we're going to try and force an outside release. And that this ball is going to attack vertical from where it's caught. Okay, now, we do a poor job on the double because Fertitta comes up there and tries to behead the guy. All right, and Jordan lets him get outside. But the double, look what we've done to their releases. We've got 3 black shirts all together right now. 1 grenade would get them all. That's good for us. We're going to have a lane somewhere. Okay, look where the ball is caught, and it is a vertical attack right from the spot that it's caught. Okay, it's a we're not trying to get back to the middle of the field. We're trying to get it. And look at the technique on these backside blocks. Running them by, grab and wrap. And we get tackled on the friggin' 4-yard line. Okay, so you can see number 2 is trying to force the guard to an inside release. We want to send him back to the double team. Okay, we're hopping outside on the right guard. We want him to release inside, and we want to run him right to 28. 2 loses his leverage. 28 gets overly aggressive. But 5th, and again, look, we decided here we're blocking the long snapper because that dude could run. He was a threat, so we dedicated a blocker to him. But here's where the ball is caught, and we are vertical straight right now. That's what the alley concept is. So now let's look at it against Northwestern. I know the ball, we knew when there was a break in the formation, that whether it was field or boundary, it was always going to the break in the formation. So they gave us twins up top. So we had to check with me in that if there was any break in the formation, we were going to run an alley return to that side. Instead of doubling the guard now, we're doubling the tackle. So we're going to double the left tackle here from depth. We're forcing, there's the double team on the left tackle. Now, those 2 guys removed, they got to handle a twist. And at some point, Chris has just got to make somebody miss, which he does. But you can see we're vertical from where the ball is caught. That's the concept of an alley, that we're going to put a double team. We can anticipate where the direction is going, and we're going to put a double team right there. Okay? Now, field returns. Field returns are a little bit tricky. There are some weeks we don't have a field return in because we say their punter always hits the ball 38 to 44 yards, and there's just not enough room to run a field return. If a 42-yard punt in college, you're going to have people around you. If we faced a punter that we said, okay, this guy will out-punt the coverage 2 or 3 times a game. Like, I will literally go into games here at Notre Dame and never call a field return if the opponent's punting into the breeze. But when they shift at the end of the quarter and all of a sudden I got a guy with a big leg who's punting with a 15-mile-per-hour wind at his back, now I'll call a field return because I'm betting that at some point with the wind, he's going to out-punt his coverage and allow us to attack back to the big field. So here against USC, I showed you this one earlier. He did out-punt the coverage, and we set a double team to the back. See, 17 and 8 up there have a double, and that's the son of a buck that got us. Because, boom, We've got him out leveraged right now. The guy that gets us came out of a double, which is disheartening. Okay? I'm anticipating that the ball is going to be punted into the boundary. We have a field return. So look at the top. Look at the top of the picture here, the right side of the screen. When we were running alley or matchup, those guys were inside and they were forcing outside releases. Now they've shifted their leverage and they're forcing inside releases because we want to get the ball back to the big field. So you can see right now at the top, we forced the tackle and the guard inside. We are starting to close down and force everybody into the boundary. And they're on scholarship too, they feel it. Chris does a great job right there of getting vertical, and now he gets back to it. And that is a field return. That is blocked field return. He brought it up the near hash, but you saw we invited everybody into the boundary, and we're trying to attack the flank of their coverage. Okay, against Florida State, great example. Not a great kick to run it against. And look, at some point, your returner's just got to be a player. You can see us. You can see why we're trying. Look at that back to the field right now. That's a good look right now. You got a chance. And again, you got to just work on punt return because the guy who makes the play is a fat shield that ran in from the backside. But, okay, so that's the techniques that we teach in progression, bottom of the stem, top of the stem. And then as we study these shield punt teams, we answer all those questions and then decide, are we going to be a matchup team this week where we're trying to get it back into the middle? Are we going to be an alley team because they're a great directional punting team, so we're going to be vertical? Or does the guy have a cannon? We think that maybe once or twice we can get back to the big field. I will tell you that we'll go into a game with 2 concepts and 1 rush. And here's one other piece I'll leave for you. The shield punt teams, and they create all this space. Coach Kelly and I had a long discussion about this. We stopped leaving the defense on the field on punt safe. Why do I want Jerry Tillery to react to a formation that is spread 40 yards across the field? We will put our punt return unit out there and we make a call we call magic. I'm pulling a rabbit out of a hat. And we line up in what is essentially a bare front with 2-3 techniques and a 0 nose, but we're skilled athletes. We have force players, and that is essentially, we're looking out for the tricks. Magic, we're looking out for the tricks. So our punt safe, in this day and age of shield punt and all the different formations and the motions, trying to teach your defense to get lined up to all that junk often is a waste of time. And then you got to worry about, am I in nickel, am I in base, what am I in? It's easier to just send the punt return team out there and let them apply their rules and play punt safe out of punt return. So that was a change that we made this year as well. I've run too long. I appreciate everybody's attention. I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy it. Go Irish. We'll see you.